Hello everyone and welcome to today's segment of Roundtable. I'm your host Lee Martin and I'm joined today by Jason Paglia and Big Man on Campus. We're going to be discussing the NASCAR Cup Series that's going to take place this Sunday, May 17th. It's going to be at Darlington Raceway. It's going to be since March 8th, since these drivers have gone away. So before we get into anything, I just wanted to add, if you aren't subscribed to us yet, just go ahead and hit that bell button and subscribe to our channel. That way you never miss a new or upcoming show. Now let's get to it. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, Lee. How are you?
Thanks.
Awesome. I'm doing great. Now, the whole thing with NASCAR, they have a whole bunch of new rules implemented. They have no fans because of the social distancing. They have 16 people per roster. That's including the owners. The distance, yeah, they can't even practice. They can't qualify. That's going to be so different, especially at Darlington. So, Jay, I'm just going to start with you. What is your take on NASCAR social distancing rules?
My suggestion for anyone that's watching is to not bet any kind of substantial amount of money on the first few races. I know some people like to handicap NASCAR with information from years past, like driver averages through the years or how a driver is done at a certain track over the course of a decade. I like content that is like weekend specific in NASCAR. I need to know what a car is doing on the track. What chassis are they using? Is it from a chassis that they used from a race long ago? And I need consecutive lap average times, I think, is the most important thing. We're not going to have any practice. We're not going to have any qualifying. So it's going to be really different at the very least until the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, until they really start qualifying and putting miles on the track. So I'm going to have to live bet this race personally.
Yeah.
But I understand why they're doing it. And I mean, I get it. I agree with it. But we should be back to normal by the time the Coca-Cola 600 comes.
But even without qualifying, I feel like they could have implemented some sort of social distancing rules with qualifying, especially at Darlington, since it is the track too tough to tame. So, Big Man, I'm going to ask you this question. Since there's no qualifying and it is a tough track, do you think there's going to be more accidents or even possible pileups because of the no practice and no qualifying?
Well, yeah, it's definitely going to be weird. I mean, when you go to a NASCAR race, Lee and Jay, there's a lot of fanfare. There's a lot of ability to get out there and, even before the races, check out the track, practice. I think you're going to definitely want to look to drivers that have been around for a while. They've seen this track many, many times. I know that you'll probably ask down the road, are there any younger drivers you want to get to? And I'm sure, we'll go over that. But I'm looking at seasoned veterans here. I'm not going to, as Jay said, I'm not betting a ton of drivers. I'm not going particularly deep in this race. I just want to kind of see how these drivers deal with it. They're literally in a trailer. They get out of the trailer 10 minutes before the race, go into their car and go. It's much different than normal. They haven't raced in like 75 days. It's a long time. And again, I'm not sure if that will produce more wrecks or whatever as far as that's concerned. But it's definitely going to be weird. Like anything, you look at even other sports, like the Bundesliga getting started. There's a lot of things you want to just see how things go for a week or two and then get back involved. This is unprecedented. I'm going to want to definitely look to more seasoned drivers and maybe drivers with very few changes in their pit crew chief, things like that.
Yep. And Big Man, you brought up young drivers, and that was where I was going with my next question. Ryan Blaney and William Byron, they're young guns going against the top guns. Right now, Ryan Blaney's at plus 1,800 and William Byron's at plus 2,000. Do you think they're underrated, or do you think they're just they're going to be in the back of the pack? Do you think they're going to have a chance against like Joey Logano or even Kevin Harvick? And Big Man, I'll continue to ask you this question.
Yeah, again, I'm not looking real deep at some of the young guns. Blaney particularly, I'm not looking at. I mean, he's, in his 5 career starts here, he's only finished in the top 23 times. I mean, he's not a guy that, if I'm looking at a young gun, and Jay, I'm sure Jay knows this. If I'm looking at a young gun, I'm looking Eric Jones. I actually bet Eric Jones at 15-1. I think he's got a decent shot here. In a few races, he's actually won this race. He won it last season in September. He's been in the top 10 all 3 races. I think he's going to have a shot here. But again, I'm looking at drivers with the experience that have raced this track 20, 15, 16, 20 times. Some of the deeper drivers, the Jimmy Johnsons, the Martin Truexes, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, as far as younger guns, I'm going to kind of stay away from them, especially a guy like Ryan Blaney.
And Jason, I can ask you the same question. What are your thoughts with the young guns versus the big guns? Like, for example, Ryan Blaney and William Byron.
I agree with Jeff. I think veterans are probably the way to go. I'm higher on Jeff, on Ryan Blaney than Jeff is. He finished, I think, the last 2 years in the top 15. I think that's pretty solid for a young driver. But I mean, his car this year is so much better than in years past. He's already finished up runner-up at Daytona. He could have easily won the Pennzoil 400 if not for a leaky tire with like 3 laps left. So I'm high on Ryan Blaney in general this year. And I think he's going to win races this year because the car is really good. As far as this race, until the race starts, I probably won't have a pre-race position. I'll probably wait till half the race is over until I actually place a bet. But I'm high on Ryan Blaney, but I think Jeff's right. I think your Martin Truexes, your Kevin Harvicks, your Kyle Bushes, Brad Keselowski, all these guys that have owned Darlington over the last 6 to 7 years are pretty much the sides that you would want to go with as far as a pre-race position. I'm not that high on William Byron. I know you guys said something about him. He struggled in the 2 starts at Darlington, but in fairness, Hendrick Motorsports and Chevy in general have not been competition for Ford or Toyota over the last couple of years. However, I do think that changed this year. In the races we've seen so far, I think Chevy looks much better. They changed the engine package. They changed the nose on the car. So they have been performing better. But I'm just really not that high on William Byron overall. But I think that Jeff is right. Veterans are the way to go, 100%, in terms of pre-race position.
One other thing, Lee, real quick, with Ryan Blaney, one other thing you have to realize, he has a new crew chief as well. Mm-hmm. I just don't want a lot of kind of random things. This race is going to be important to the pits. Every race is, but you just have such odd conditions here. It's going to be much different. I want stability. I want long time, people. I want long time crew chiefs. Just not that it's going to change a ton, but I just kind of want consistency in the teams.
Well, what about your Penske drivers like Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano? Joey Logano has been hot right now. Didn't he win his last race that he was in? So Joey Logano right now is plus 600. Do you think he has a chance of winning the Darlington race this weekend or no?
Yeah, he's never won here, surprisingly enough. So that's obviously something new. Look, anytime, and this is pretty rudimentary. If you're betting NASCAR, look, I don't think you'll ever make a bad decision taking Brad Keselowski or Joey Logano. I mean, NASCAR generally, I know for the most part, you'll see 40, 45 drivers every week. But, Jay will agree. For the most part, the same 8 to 10 guys are going to be at the top. It's do you get a good car and do you get lucky this week? As far as the cars, I think Jay makes an interesting point. Obviously, there's a lot that's been done to them. But, as I said, it's truly going to be we get out of our trailer, we walk to the car, and we get going. There's no fanfare. There's no anything. It's truly random. So, I don't think anytime, you bet you got Logano or people like that, you're going to, have any issue. But if I'm looking at a big guy this week, my favorite bet here is Denny Hamlin. He's had a great season so far. He won at Daytona. He's already won twice here at Darlington. And he's had a great career at this racetrack. 4 top 5s. And he's been here many times. He's raced here 14 times. He knows this track well. And you talk about hot. Denny Hamlin's done some nice things coming in here as well. I know he hasn't been great at Darlington recently, but overall he's a great driver. He's going to be one of your favorites. I would look towards him here.
All right.
I agree with that. I think Hamlin's one of the best drivers in the sport, and obviously you can't go wrong with Joe Gibbs Racing. And Jeff is right, what Lee said earlier about Penske. I mean, if you have a Penske Ford, you're already in really good shape. Yeah. Keselowski he won, I think, in 2018, finished 5th last year. And Joey Logano just won the championship last year. He was the best driver last year in the sport, finished 2nd at this track in 2018. So, yeah, I mean, if you're riding a Penske guy this weekend, it's not the worst thing to do, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then, Jason, I wanted to ask you this question. So who would be your top pick for the race? Would you say Denny Hamlin, or do you have someone in you said you were going to probably do live betting, but if you had to choose, who would be your top racer, your top driver?
I would probably go with one of the big four. I think they're in every race. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Brad Keselowski, Jeff Stryber, Denny Hamlin, and then Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. They're probably the best 8 guys right now in the sport. So I think that Jeff's right. I think you got to lean on a veteran team right now that knows exactly how they want to set their car up at Darlington because they've been together for the last 10 years. So I think Kevin Harvick is due, man. I think he's due to win a championship. He hasn't won one in a while. And I think I would probably, if you had to nail me down on a pre-race position, I would take Harvick going into the race. And then as soon as you get to the halfway point of the race, you really need data to analyze. And then that's when I think you make value plays after the race is halfway done and you have some information to look at. Going in, I guess I'll take Kevin Harvick. I don't know what his odds are, but I assume they're always around plus 500,
it's
plus
plus
600.
450 right now.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'll ride Harvick.
All right. And big man, I can ask you the same question. Who would your top pick for the race be?
Yeah, I mean, I give Jay a lot of credit. I mean, 4.5 to 1 is just too low in a race like this. It's just there's so many odd things going on. But yeah, I'll go Denny Hamlin. That's my top driver. I'll also go Eric Jones. I took him at 15 to 1, and just a flyer on anyone above 20 to 1. The only guy I would take above 20 to 1, and I think look, he hasn't won a race since 2017. It's been 98 races since Jimmy Johnson last won.
Amen.
It's his last season. Yeah, it's his last season. It's his swan song. I don't think taking a flyer on him isn't a bad idea. I mean, he's won here the most out of any driver. He's been very solid this season. 5th at Vegas, 7th at Fontana. He was good at Daytona. Top 12 at Phoenix. He's had a solid season so far. It could be one of those swan song, really good type of years for Jimmy Johnson as he heads out into his new life. So yeah, I think at 20 to 1. Why can't he break the 98 winless streak? I'll go Jimmy Johnson as well.
What was that,
I think we see Jimmy Johnson wins a race this year, definitely.
Yes, for sure. Well, I'm hoping for a Penske driver because I love my Fords. That's why Brad Keselowski's my guy. Same with Joey Logano. That's why I asked you guys about them. But I guess we'll see this Sunday. And that's all I have for you guys today. Again, if you aren't subscribed to us, definitely hit that bell button and subscribe to our channel. And if you aren't following the guys on Twitter, definitely give them a follow. You can follow Jason at the Sports Keg CEO, and you can follow Jeff, or Big Man on Campus, at Jeff Nadeau. Again, follow us on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks. Follow us on Instagram at SBR Sports. And obviously, again, go ahead, give us a like. That's all I have for you guys today, so until next time.